Hey guys, it's Amalia, and today, in honor of Yom Ha'atzmaut, I wanted to share with you 10 unexpected reasons why I love living in Israel. So to give a little bit of background for those who are new to the channel, both myself and my channel partner Chava made Aliyah about 2 years ago and have been living here for approximately 3 years. Aliyah, just to clarify for those who aren't aware, is the process of Jewish immigration to the state of Israel. Keep in mind that there are much bigger ideological and religious reasons why I personally chose to make Aliyah, but I figured it might be fun to just do some small reasons that I didn't expect. And maybe in a different video, I'll touch on the much broader, overarching ideological and religious themes of why I moved here. Let's get started. The first thing in Israel that I really appreciate was not a perk I really thought about prior to making Aliyah, was the healthcare system here. This is a little bit of a politically fraught issue, and I'm really not trying to talk politics. However, this is something I found helpful for myself in this country. So keep in mind that this is my experience as someone in my 20s with no pre-existing health conditions. I really don't know what the experience is like, unfortunately, for someone with more health concerns or at an older stage or a younger stage of life. For my particular stage of life and my particular needs, I really do enjoy the healthcare system here as compared to the system in America. It's for the most part a socialized medicine system. However, there is still some level of privatization. You do pay for your healthcare provider. There are different tiers and there are things you're not eligible for on the most basic tier, etc. However, coming from the USA where healthcare really is through the roof, I'm very grateful as someone in my 20s to have a really affordable healthcare system. Another thing I wasn't expecting to appreciate so much in Israel is the food scene. I love Israeli food like hummus, pita, etc. And I guess Middle Eastern food in general. Like I really love and enjoyed even prior to making Aliyah. But aside from just that food, which I love that it's like way cheaper here than it is to get in the US, I genuinely just appreciate the amount of different cultural foods that I'm able to access here as someone who keeps kosher. Because in the US, even though I lived in a city with a major Jewish population, there is still a very limited amount of options within the kosher sector. And here, keeping kosher is much more common. It is so much easier to find kosher cuisine from different cultures, especially because Israel is a place where so many people have immigrated to and flocked over the years from all over the globe. You can literally find like any type of world cuisine kosher here, which is a huge deal for me as an Orthodox Jew, getting to really taste and experience a lot of different types of food. Another thing I didn't think about before making Aliyah, but I really appreciate, is how Judaica and Jewish books are more affordable here. A lot of Judaica and Jewish books are either manufactured here or the main branch of the company is in Israel. And so a lot of Jewish books are cheaper here or just more accessible overall. And keep in mind, this is me coming from a very large Jewish community in the US. So it's not that I didn't have access to these things. However, the extent of variety that I have here and also just the amount of stores I have here for specifically targeting that is something I really appreciate. Another thing that I actually knew about prior to making Aliyah, but really did not expect to like, as a matter of fact, I really was nervous about it and kind of viscerally disliked it when I initially made Aliyah, is how open people are about talking about their politics. I'm not going to try to get into Israeli politics. It's a very big, broad and complicated and controversial topic at the moment, as politics in general is. However, I will say that I appreciate the forwardness of Israelis in talking about their political opinions and also asking you about yours. I find a lot of the time in the US, there's a sense of like shying away or being embarrassed to really talk about your political opinions openly, or to talk about who you voted for, an issue, or your feelings on a more controversial topic. However, here, even though it can get very heated at times, Israelis will simply ask you during the election month, like, oh, so who did you vote for? Whereas in the US, that's considered, I think, a little bit of an inappropriate question. Here, it's something that any random person will feel privy to asking you. Definitely, while it can get heated at times, and that's why I think it scared me at first, how open Israelis are to each other about these things. Definitely don't shy away from disagreeing with each other and standing up for what they believe in. Another thing I appreciate that I didn't even think about prior to making Aliyah is the secondhand clothing scene here. I've been trying to start only buying secondhand clothing, and in the US, I definitely could find plenty of finds. However, for modest fashion, it is much easier to find modest secondhand clothing in Israel than it is in the US. Simply because there are more Orthodox Jews here, and therefore it's really easy to find secondhand clothing stores specifically targeted towards the Orthodox community, or in areas that have a lot of Orthodox Jews and therefore a lot of clothing that meets my modesty standards. And so basically that's something that just has made my life a lot more convenient. Another very small thing I enjoy here that I definitely didn't think about at all before making Aliyah. This is so small, but I really appreciate that variety packs of sponges in Israel come in 3 different colors for dairy, meat, and parve typically, because that makes it a lot easier as an Orthodox Jew. In America, you typically have to buy like a pack of each color, or you don't have necessarily all the right colors in a multi-pack for how you color coded your kitchen towards milchik dishes or milk dishes and fleishik or meat dishes. Even small things like that really make a difference overall in my life here. Another thing I love about this country is that I can find snack foods here that in the US are not kosher, and here are kosher. For me, it's always very exciting when I get to eat the bag of Cheetos or the Skittles. Even though I'm not really such a big junk food person, it just feels like little childhood me who was watching like the non-kosher commercials in the US and like curious about these products and never getting to taste the rainbow. And now I get to taste the rainbow. Never mind, is that Skittles or is that Starburst? Shoot. I think it's Skittles. I think it's Skittles. Here, it's really, really cool to have just gotten the opportunity to try all these things that in the US I was never able to try. Another thing I absolutely love about Israel is the fact that I can eat in the Ikea restaurant. I literally love going to Ikea for the food. So in America, I remember going to Ikea occasionally and like seeing that they had a restaurant thing and being like, what is this? In later years, I then heard about like, oh, there's these Swedish meatballs and they're really good or whatever. I was always curious. Then I made Aliyah and I had to go to Ikea to pick up some furniture. And oh my gosh, the Ikea restaurant, at least the one in Netanya, I don't know if all of the Ikeas in Israel are kosher, but the one in Netanya where I went is a Mahadran kosher, that's like a higher level of kosher. And let me tell you, it was amazing. Like, I literally am so grateful that I live in a country where as an Orthodox Jew, I can eat the Swedish meatballs at Ikea. Like, it is just so fulfilling and really, really fun to have these experiences that like you hear about in America and not really getting to do them. And that's fine. And you know, I really love my religion and these are like such small, minute things. But it really is cool to get to like try things that I never thought I'd be able to try. So this next one I actually thought I'd really dislike prior to making Aliyah. Definitely it still has its moments where it's a struggle, but I actually really appreciate the fact that there's no prime shipping from Amazon to Israel. Actually, around the same time as I made Aliyah, Israel started doing free shipping on select products and orders over, I think, $49 to Israel. And so that definitely has been something helpful. Even so, it's only on some items, and it also takes some time for those items to come. And you have to wait until you have enough items in your cart to like get over that threshold in order to bring those items here. So while it has its inconveniences, something I've really appreciated because of that is how it's kind of brought me away from some consumerist habits that I really had in the US. For example, like this is no shade on my family, and I think this is how a lot of families in the US operate, but at least while I was in high school, when Amazon was already very much part of my family formula. Remember, I have 5 siblings. This is also with both my parents as well. There was literally always at least one Amazon package at the door, basically daily, maybe every other day. I think this is how a lot of Americans live these days because you just order everything online. You think of something and you order it. And not only is it unsustainable, but that instant gratification you can really get from Amazon is something that I think just really spurs on more and more consumeristic habits. Something that I really appreciated here is really having to think through, like, do I need this before buying it? Because it doesn't just come to my door the next day. It's something that I'm going to have to wait a few weeks for. For me, at least, it's definitely really helped me. And so while occasionally there's an item where I'm like, oh, I wish I could have it tomorrow, or I wish I could ship like a much larger item, it's still something that I actually come to appreciate, that I don't just think of things appearing at my door with the click of a button like I really did in the US. Another small thing I appreciate in Israel is the addition of tree seams, are basically blinds that like go up and down, either fully shading a room or like fully letting light in, that are on most windows in Israel. And so while occasionally they have their inconveniences, especially when you don't have an actual window pane over it, like I do in some rooms of my apartment, I actually think it's a very brilliant system that really allows your space to stay cool in the summer without using too much energy by just closing the tree seam. Another additional aspect is that when you really need like a good nap or something, you can just close the blinds and like it's basically a blackout curtain, but it's just like standardized in every apartment here. I hope you enjoyed this video. The point of this video was not to talk about the big ideas of why I love Israel, why I'm a Zionist, why I moved to Israel, etc. Rather, it was really just to talk about the small little things in my day-to-day life that I've really come to appreciate about life here. So I hope you got something from this content and have a Chag Atzmaut Sameach, a great Yom Ha'atzmaut, a happy Yom Ha'atzmaut. See you in the next one. Like and subscribe down below.